I think the government actually played into leading Jack Dorsey to where Twitter got. They sat Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else in front of Congress so many times, and they said, if you don't fix this, we're going to regulate you.
What do you think Jack Dorsey's role in this is? Is he a friend or foe to Elon Musk?
Great question. I think they're friends. I think he is upset that his company that he built from the ground up is in a position where it should take this deal. He's working on something called Blue Sky right now. Like this, the part of the reason that he stepped out as CEO is so that he could work on a decentralized social network. He actually is on record over the last couple months saying that the centralization of the internet is one of the worst things happening in society. And that's because they get to dictate, right? Google gets to throw things at the top of the page if they want to and help dictate the news. And then the censorship that has ensued with all of the other social medias. He is working on something to actually try to, he hired like 5 engineers. It's going to be a several years long project, but he wants people on Twitter to be able to talk to people on Facebook, to be able to talk to people on Instagram. And he's working on making it less of content moderation and more of just allowing it to be decentralized because, right, Facebook in this case would not be able to tell somebody on Twitter what they couldn't say, right? So if you open it up to everybody, it becomes how the internet once was, where everybody could do something. That is his most ideal world. What he struggled with, and I'm not a huge fan of Jack Dorsey, to be honest with you, but this is a redeeming quality. He believes in free speech, but he knows that if you just have a free-for-all, there's utter chaos, right? If you let all the bots on and you don't vet anybody, then he says you couldn't sift through anything. There's got to be some sort of moderation, at least with the bots. And this is why Elon, when he was talking about you should have everybody verify. Everybody should get a check mark so you know you're talking to a human, right? And that way you at least have to stand behind your words, and maybe that changes public discourse. And so you obviously, hate speech, the left likes to say, is not protected speech. Well, yes, it is. You can't arrest me if I come up and say something really terrible to you. It doesn't matter how hateful it is. But I also can't threaten your life, right? So that's the stuff that should be taken off of the platform. If I say, Jason Whitlock, I'm going to kill you, and here's how I'm going to do it in a plan, then the FBI should probably show up at my house, right, if I'm devising a plan for that. So there is a place for this moderation. The problem is, and I think there's a case to be made, I think the government actually played into leading Jack Dorsey to where Twitter got. They sat Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else in front of Congress so many times, and they said, if you don't fix this, we're going to regulate you. And so they started down the road of self-regulation. Well, the only thing that ever at least the government, when they regulate, has limitations, right? It's like they can only go so far in a private company unless you're going to turn into a utility or whatever else. So the limitations are good, but in a private company, and this is what everybody always talks about with Twitter, is that eventually, you don't really have bounds. They're protected by Section 230, and guys like Jack Dorsey get caught up in their own ideology, and eventually you start censoring in one direction, in your own biases. I'm no fan of government regulation much at all, but you can make the argument in this case that government regulation would have been a much better outcome than what we've seen with these social media platforms.